Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Annie and Kate. And today our guest is Dr Emma Beckett, and she is a food and nutrition scientist and a lecturer with the University of Newcastle on the Central Coast. And she researches why we all respond differently to foods. And she's also a passionate science communicator, and she focuses on empowering the public to interpret nutrition research. And she's a regular person on print, online, and radio and TV. And she really wants to empower people to make more informed choices about food without fear or judgment, which sounds really good to me. And one thing that I do love about her, she collects food-themed dresses and earrings and loves football, cats, and Agatha Christie. All good things in my book. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's quite a collection of things. Food, Agatha Christie, football.
I'm a pretty eclectic person, I guess. I guess all these things have just come organically in my life, and yeah, that's okay.
Love it.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those things, although, you know, football, you can debate which brand of football, but it's all good and it's all sport, which is healthy, so it must be good.
I'm mostly the round ball football, but I do also like the NRL.
And he's a bit of a rugby aficionado.
By rugby, I mean union, not league. So, it's one of those things back in the UK where I'm originally from. Soccer, as you guys call it here, which I actually do call football, is basically associated with hooligans. And rugby union, despite they might be hooligans off the pitch, typically are much better behaved as normal adults out in the real world, which is a little bit, kind of stereotypical, but I found it to be largely true.
Here I find the nice boys were the ones who all played soccer growing up. The poor boys all played NRL and the rich boys all played union. So, and now girls get to play too.
Hooray for the girls. By the way, easily the most exciting teams to watch, I think, from a sporting perspective in Australia are the women's soccer team. The women's rugby sevens is super strong, and just netball as well. I love the fact that netball's on telly over here. I've never seen that before. It's just fascinating because it's such a brilliant game to watch, and packs in the crowds, and just so great to see women at the top of their game just celebrated for being athletes.
But if you ask the AFL, they invented women's sport.
Oh, did they? Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
They like to think so.
Yeah, all right. I don't
like to think so. But we all know netball was the progenitor, It's such a huge sport, so many people involved, and most of them women. It's a hard game to play. I used to play it a lot. That's why I have bad knees now. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be don't play netball and don't play basketball. Alrighty, so let's kick off. So Annie, do you want to ask one of the first questions?
I would. Thank you very much, Kate. I'm going to ask, Emma, from your career so far, what's the one thing that surprised you most?
Probably the one thing that surprised me most is that I can be this human and still be a respected scientist. For a very long time, I tried to fit in the academic box and dress how I thought I should dress and speak how I thought I should speak to be a research scientist and be respected at conferences and teaching and those kinds of things. And then I realized I was losing that battle, and I wasn't seeing myself when I looked in the mirror. I was seeing my twin sister. And so I let the Miss Frizzle take over and embraced wholeheartedly being a loud and bright and the person that I am today. And I thought that maybe my university just put up with that because I was good at my research. But I've realized lately that they actually embrace that, and they actually appreciate that I'm a normal human and not a stereotype of an academic. And I never really thought that would happen. I thought being me would be my downfall.
And was there a tipping point for that moment? Was there just a moment where it all just came clear to you that, screw it, I'm just going to do it? Or did it happen over time?
I guess the whole becoming the Miss Frizzle of food science happened over time. And I let it happen, and it worked. It was fun. But the moment that I really realized that my university was supportive of my personality and my personal brand, I guess it's kind of become, the moment I realized that was when I won an award from the university for Early Career Researcher of the Year last year. And I was up against people who had stellar track records for publications and grant funding and all those kind of traditional metrics of an academic. And the fact that I won says that my university actually is valuing what I'm doing with outreach and who I am as a human in science, and not just what I do with my actual on paper research. And that really knocked me over. It blew me away that's something that a university, an academic institution can appreciate. So yeah, that's the thing that surprised me the most.
That's really interesting that you say that, because it calls out all of those stereotypes that we all have of the default human. A lot of us have a default human that's male, and a lot of us have a default older white-haired gentleman who is, so it's really interesting that you had that insight and you're able to leverage it at the start of your career to build your career being true to yourself.
Yeah, I'm really lucky because I'd never seen anyone like me in academia, which made me think it wasn't allowed. And, some people don't like it, and I do get some negative comments about my outfits and earrings and things. But for the most part, people have been accepting of it and have embraced it. And yeah, I think it's good that, maybe I can be that role model for some people in the future, because I didn't get to see anyone like this going through my university.
Yeah. Oh, I work in a university, so I know how many white-haired older white gentlemen we have there. I'm really interested to hear about what is the one thing that you will never do again?
Oh, one thing I'll never do again. This is probably a very common answer you'll get to this question. Drink tequila.
I'm in that campus. I can't do it.
Everyone's got their nemesis alcohol, right? So I turned 18, first day of schoolies. So Gold Coast with my twin sister and my year 12 cohort, and got absolutely wasted on tequila. And now I actually feel a little bit sick just talking about it right now.
Tequila's a bad drink. Do
you have any others, Emma or Kate? Because I've got tequila, and then there's another one. I don't know whether you even have it here in Australia. It's a terrible, terrible kind of whiskey blend nonsense called Southern Comfort.
Oh yes, we do have that. That is disgusting.
Can't do it.
Yeah, that was a bad time of my life when I had Southern Comfort. That was very bad. No, I'm much happier now that I have a nice Malbec.
I'm joining you this evening with a lovely gin and tonic made with lemons from my own homegrown lemon tree. And by the way, I did not grow that lemon tree. I inherited it when I bought the house earlier this year. I'm very grateful for it, because who knew that when you buy a house, you get your gin and tonic kind of dressing with it. That's just a fabulous addition to any purchase for home. And it's a Port Tom's gin, which is a good Australian gin. If you haven't tried it, please do.
Very nice. And poor Emma is in the office.
So I'm on the tea.
What sort of tea drinker are you, Emma?
I'm normally an English breakfast, but this afternoon I did use the last of the communal milk from the staff room fridge. So I'm now on the lime and peppermint, because I don't need milk in that one. So yeah, I was in the office late because I had a meeting with my Slovenian student right before this. So if I don't meet her late in the afternoon, it's a ridiculous time in Slovenia, and I'm doing radio when I'm done with you guys. So it's going to be a late night in the office for me. So I need this tea.
It's an action-packed day for you. And how is it supervising someone remotely like that?
Well, we're supervising everyone remotely at the moment, aren't we, with COVID restrictions, and not many of the students are on campus. But it's been good. The remote students are sometimes more engaged because they need to have that routine of meeting with you to keep things going when they don't see you every day, to get guilty if they haven't done things. But yeah, it's working really well, other than the time differences. That takes a little bit of planning. I can't do those in my head. I need help to calculate that from the internet.
Oh yeah, I use the internet all the time for that.
I haven't done that, ladies. Hang on, what's it called? I use it all the time. It's called Time Buddy. And there's a free version of it where I think you can have 5 time zones, and then there's a paid for version, which is a whole $2.49 for a lifetime purchase. And you can have up to 10 time zones. And I swear to God, that thing has, so I've worked in a globally distributed team for the last 2.5 years with Microsoft. And when you've got to try and add up time zones of Seattle plus New York plus Berlin plus London plus Tel Aviv plus Bangalore plus Shanghai and Beijing and goodness knows wherever else, it is utterly impossible to try and figure out what the best time to do anything is.
I'm going to have to make friends with Time Buddy.
Very good. Can recommend.
Yeah, I've had a couple of meetings this week, at 10 p.m., which turns out is 7 a.m. in Minnesota.
That works. We planned an international conference once with people all around the world, and I drew the short straw being Australia, and I had to get up for the meetings at 3 a.m.
Ugh, that sucks. Had to do that a few times too.
It's rough.
We're doing some stuff with research data management, and they're planning to hold the sessions 3 times in the day so that everybody gets a go at them, which I think is a really nice egalitarian sort of approach. This is what happens when you let Europeans organise stuff.
Well, interestingly, we just had a developer conference at Microsoft, and we did something similar. So it was 48 hours worth of wall-to-wall content, but it was repeated 3 times. So it was, we started in Seattle. I think the baton got passed to Sydney, and then we passed it to London. So it was 8 hours of content, but just repeated across those 3 time zones over the 48-hour period. It worked really well. And what also we managed to do as a result of that is you just made it way more accessible, not just for people to watch and contribute in terms of engaging with the content itself, but also it made it much easier for anybody that we really wanted to bring in on a panel or do a guest speaker or a demo slot. There were so many options for them. And yeah, it was interesting because I think usually that conference has around about 6,000 attendees face-to-face, usually in Seattle. And this year we had something like 130,000 people register because it was just open for everybody anywhere in the world. So I don't know, some things that COVID has forced us to do in terms of thinking differently, I think there'll be no way that we're going to go back to some of those things.
Yeah, I hope it stays. I think for being, I'm on a regional campus, so, we don't have the access to colleagues and other universities like people on city campuses do. And the accessibility, the way this has leveled the playing field for us has been quite remarkable. So yeah, I hate to find an upside in a pandemic. That seems a bit cheeky, but it is definitely something that I do hope we hold on to.
Have there been any other upsides, Emma, that you've noticed?
I feel like we've gone. I feel like we've gone back in time a little bit. Like the world's got a bit smaller, or things have gotten further away, but our worlds have become smaller. And I kind of think this must be what life was like for my parents, where you didn't just chuff off overseas. Like this time last year, I was thinking about taking a sneaky long weekend to Tokyo because Qantas was having a sale, and now that's so far away in my expectations of my life. And it's kind of made me appreciate more what I've got locally and what I can do locally and who is around me physically.
Have you been doing pandemic baking?
I've been doing a little bit of home baking, but more so not in that therapeutic ISO way that everyone else has been doing, more because avoiding going to the supermarket has made me think about my waste a lot more. And so I haven't wanted to waste any bananas or apples or anything like that. So I've been doing baking to put those into muffins and cakes and things so that I don't waste them and don't have to go and buy snacks at the supermarket.
Yeah, I found myself making banana bread for that very reason, because the bananas were going off. And then I ate it all. It was delicious.
I've bought a wormery and composter, so I can at least have, if I do have any waste. Or even one of the other things I noticed as well is even when you get vegetables, there's always parts of the vegetable that perhaps there's a leaf that's yellow or isn't quite what you want to eat, or it's just the part of the root or something that you usually throw away. chop that up, put it in the wormery, bingo bango, food for your other stuff that you're growing out the side of the composter. So it's very exciting this morning. I've got tomatoes growing out the side of the composter. There are flowers on them, people. I'm going to have tomatoes soon. I feel like a mother. I'm very excited.
I got an avocado tree out of my compost. I have a bokashi, the fermentable, it's an anaerobic fermentable compost. So it's all compact and it doesn't smell. And apparently it's really good at breaking down the outside of the avocado seed so that when you dig it into the garden, avocado trees grow. So I've been giving away avocado trees to all my friends. So now I own a house with an avocado tree. I think that makes me a millionaire.
I think it should.
That is pretty cool.
It's a property portfolio, surely.
Definitely added value to your house, put it that way.
Definitely.
So I'm interested in how it's going with your students. How are they finding things during the pandemic?
Oh, it's been interesting. I think we're very lucky that most students are digital natives these days. So when we transferred our undergraduate teaching online, most of them adapted amazingly to it. And we had lots of little tricks that I was using to kind of still build that sense of community, because I teach first year and it's really hard not seeing first year and being part of their days and their lives and easing them into it. But we did lots of online mingling, and we had these little parallel work sessions where everyone would just log on at the same time and do some work, and we were there if we wanted to shout out to each other. So I think the students have done remarkably well. I feel bad for them because obviously they didn't sign up for online learning and have been delivered online learning, but they're coping really well. And I've said to them lots of times that, okay, you didn't get the experience that you thought you were going to get. I had them all hyped up about teamwork and problem solving and all the things that they were going to do together. But this year they got to work on their resilience instead. And next year we'll work on all those other skills that we didn't get to do together. So I think they've coped really well.
That's really interesting. I know at our place, a lot of my colleagues who were telling me at the start of the year, oh, my course is special and unique and it can never go online. And then in March, it was online. So I suspect that some of the teachers were struggling more than the students. I think you're right about the digital natives thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that I am familiar with the online world. So it wasn't too scary for me to have to put things online, but I can see that there would be some people who would really struggle with it.
Did you set out to be a science communicator, or did that just happen to you?
No, I never set out to do anything. My literal motto is just say yes and see what happens. And I'm pretty much falling through life taking opportunities. I became a science communicator because one day my PhD supervisor, when I was doing my PhD, got asked to write an article for The Conversation, the academic website where academics write for everyday people. He got asked to write it and he was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Emma, would you like to do it? And because I say yes to everything, I said yes. And it was a really good experience. The editor was nice to me, and I wrote an article and it went online, and I felt a bit proud. And apparently the editor really enjoyed working with me. So she asked me again next time she needed someone to write something. And then it kind of just spiraled from there. Once you write in The Conversation, people want to get you on the radio and talk about what you've written about. And I just kept saying yes to things, and now I think I'm a science communicator.
That's really cool. Because one of the things I often do is people ring me to make a comment about cybersecurity, which I know about, but I often try to get other women to comment, and they always say things like, oh, I need to prep. And I'm like, literally, you're talking to the general public. You know way more than them. And there seems to be an unwillingness often to say yes and just have a punt.
I don't know whether it's an unwillingness. I think you're right that a lot of women. So I've just I've been doing a whole bunch of discovery interviews with female founders. Literally, I'm like knee deep in it right now, and it's been fascinating to hear just of the female founders that are sort of a couple of years into their experience. If you look at their qualifications and their subject matter areas of expertise, they are so overqualified, like double degrees and PhDs and 15 years of corporate experience or 15 years of domain experience. before they took the leap of faith to start a company. And then if you speak to other women who are perhaps, they have the profile of a founder to be in the future, and you ask them why they won't do it or haven't done it yet, I'm not done yet. I don't have enough experience. I don't feel confident enough. And it's sort of a little bit to what you're saying, Kate, around women tend to want to feel like they are 100% ready before they throw themselves into that kind of new environment and new experience, because they feel like they're not prepared. And I don't know, I don't know whether the average male white guy would feel the same, but what do you think, Emma?
Well, I never feel prepared. That's why I call it falling through life, taking opportunities. But I think I did my big disappointment in life very early, and I got married and divorced very young. And so it kind of taught me, if I can pick myself up and dust myself off from that, then if I accidentally say the wrong word or sneeze or do something stupid on TV, that's not going to be the end of me. So I think in a weird way, that kind of beat the fear out of me early.
I think you're right. Sometimes the fear of the potential failure is greater than the sort of the upside of whatever perceived risk you're taking might actually give you. And once I've seen any founder, and it doesn't have to be a male or a female, it's literally just the first step taken give enough confidence to keep taking the next step, and the one after and the one after that, because you realize actually it was never that hard. It was just all kind of that perceived risk in your head.
If worst case scenario isn't dying, I'm doing it.
Probably put on a t-shirt.
Maybe I can sell that.
I think so. You heard it here first, people. Patent it quick.
I think that a lot of people would buy that t-shirt. So
it probably exists on the internet already. Everything does.
It's Rule 34.
Nothing's new anymore.
It's very true. Hey, so Emma, I've got a question for you. Before we started recording, I commented on how beautiful your dress is. And you mentioned earlier around how being your authentic self at work was really important to you, kind of really feeling like you could step into your own personality and be your authentic self every day. Was the dress part of that, or was it the other way around? You felt your authentic self and put the dress on, or is the dress part of your way of getting ready for the world every day?
Kind of both. So I used to always wear very loud clothes all my life. I've always had the colors in my hair, and I've always been a loud dresser. And then when I got a grown-up job, I started wearing black and beige and all those things I thought I was meant to wear. And I got my first food dress because someone I knew had designed it, and it was a donut dress, pink with donuts on. And someone I knew was the artist, and so I bought it partly to support her, partly because I thought it was just a bit of fun. And it started conversations about food, and everyone went, "Oh, that's cool because you're a food scientist." And then they went, "Oh, but can you wear that because you're a nutritionist?" And then that started conversations, and then that became my dress that I wore whenever I did anything where I'd see people, like conferences and meetings and things. And then I realized through the internet, there's hundreds of those kinds of dresses out there. So I started buying one at a time, and eventually I morphed into a person who only ever wears food print dresses and only ever wears food print earrings. And it's kind of become a thing, but is just so naturally me. I feel so comfortable. Someone said to me the other day, "How easy is it being good at your job when you don't have to worry about who you are?" And that really resonated with me. It's for me, this just helps me bring the happiness and the connection with people. It's amazing how many conversations a dress can start. And then this has morphed into me doing that. Every morning on my social media, I post a photo of a new dress or a new dress earring combo, and add a food fact or a nutrition fact to it. So it's become a way of connecting with people, but also connecting with me. So I'm comfortable, they're comfortable, everyone's comfortable, and information's flowing, and it's not an awkward academic public interaction anymore.
I love that.
I love it. I wait for them every day just to see them, because it just makes me smile. But I'm also really interested in your bio. It says that you want to empower people to make more informed choices about food without fear or judgment. How did you come to having that perspective?
Well, I'm a fat nutritionist, so I've experienced a lot of that fear and judgment, because the favorite thing that people like to go to is, how can you possibly know about nutrition? You're chubby. And I'm like, that's my PhD right there. That's how I know about it. But I guess for me, I'd noticed there's a lot of nutrition education that is based around telling people what to do. And there's a lot of marketing around selling people the hope of what they can be. And that's really very conflicting to people. It's very easy to buy hope. And why would anyone listen to a dietitian wagging their finger about what they should and shouldn't do? So I guess my thing is more, don't tell people what to do, give them information and let them decide what to do with it. Because, people, not every food choice is about health. People are people, and they're complicated, and they live complicated lives. And I think food's become too much, it's too polarized one way or the other. You either follow the trends or you do exactly what the dietitians tell you to. And having this education is a privilege. I'm not smarter than anyone. That's not why I know more about nutrition. I'm just very lucky that I've got to have this education. So I think there's an obligation, I guess, to share that information with people, but let them make their own decisions with it. Like, sometimes I post about food and I say, this food is good for you for these reasons. And people say, oh, well, you can't tell me to eat that. And I'm never telling anyone to eat that. I'm just telling them a fact about food. If they want to eat it after they know that fact about food, great. If they don't want to, that's okay. There's lots of other foods in the world.
Yes, food is a weird subject. People are very judgy about food.
It's very weirdly so.
So Kate knows this already. I've spoken about it at length here, over many, many beverages of different descriptions. I grew up in my sort of late teens, early 20s, having an eating disorder. I was bulimic for a long time. I controlled food. I needed to control it, and I would congratulate myself if I skipped a meal. I would take laxatives if I ate something I thought was bad, in inverted commas. And just, it got to the point where my brain pathways, I think, just work differently to different people. And it's taken me so long to reprogram my brain to go, it's okay to have a piece of chocolate. It's okay to eat badly or have hot chips and a pie if you want to. Just don't do it every day. And I know all these things to be true in my head, but it's still really hard some days. And I don't know, do you have any advice for folks out there that might be struggling with those sorts of things as well?
Well, I think the first step is always be kind to yourself. I think there is so much shame and guilt around eating. And because we've all been raised with diet culture and healthy swaps and cutting XYZ out and all those things that were meant to be helpful, but have just become so problematic. And then that flipped to just eat clean and just eat, righteously. And as long as you eat fresh whole foods, everything will be okay. And then that just puts the guilt on the fast foods and the processed foods and the convenience foods and the things that need to fit with people's lives. And so I guess I would say to people who are feeling like you felt, that your diet is your own. It's no one else's business. But it does become, when food becomes a coping strategy in either direction, it does become problematic. And that's when you want to ask for help. And help is there. And I think a lot of people think because we all eat, food should be easy. And that if you can't eat right, for inverted commas, if you can't eat right, then there must be something wrong with you. And people think they need to fix themselves if they can't lose weight, or if they can't stop binge eating, or if they can't stop restricting their intake. They think there's something wrong with them. And it's not that there's something wrong with them. It's that the culture around food is incompatible with that existence. And you can get help to be able to do those things the way you want to do them. But the motivation for doing that should be yourself and what you want to be and your health and your motivations for health, and not what someone else wants you to be. Sorry, that got a bit ranty.
No, that was great. And it's really interesting for me because I had a different problem. We all have I think a lot of women have problematic relationships with food. I was using food because I was working really long hours, and I was using excess carbs to keep me going because I was sleeping poorly at night, and then I'd have a very long day with a lot of meetings, sometimes from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. And so I would just eat carbs, and that would keep me going. And that was a really dysfunctional way to be. And I had to find some balance in my life and find a way through that. But it was only when it finally dawned on me that I was using food to keep me going during the day. And then I would miss dinner and it would be late and I wouldn't want to cook. So I'd drive through McDonald's on the way home, which was just the cherry on top, really. So I think more and more people, not just women, but people have problematic relationships with food, and we need to find a balance for us. And I think Annie's been really inspiring because she's found a balance for her. And I'm starting to find my way to a more balanced relationship with food.
It's hard though. It is hard. It's a journey. Like, I used to have a really messed up relationship with food, and it took a long time. I've been everywhere in my adult life, from 50 kilos to 150 kilos. And now I'm in the middle. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I wasn't healthy when I was 150 and I wasn't healthy when I was 50. And it's a process to get that relationship with food. But I think often when we're giving people advice and recommendations and selling diets on the internet, we forget that these are people, that they're people who are eating this food. And if a diet doesn't fit with their lifestyle and can't work for them, what good is it? So yeah, if it doesn't fit with your timeline, I'm the same. I will eat really bad food when I'm really busy. And I thought that I was a bit worried I was going to gain weight during COVID ISO, not because I was worried about gaining weight, because I'm well past that in my journey with my body, but I was worried I wouldn't fit into my pretty dresses anymore. And so that's one of the reasons why I kept getting dressed up every day, even though I was working from home. Also partly because I wanted to keep doing the selfie on the internet for the normalcy. But I was worried I wouldn't fit into these dresses anymore. And it turns out, even though I've stopped going to the gym and playing hockey, I used to play hockey once a week and go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. I thought I was definitely going to gain weight just sitting on my butt at home. I've not gained a single kilo. I've not gained a single gram. I'm the exact same size I was at the beginning of March when I stopped exercising. And it's because being at home, working at home, I've been able to set my own timetable. So I've been able to eat when I'm hungry. I don't have to eat when it's the lunch break between my 4 meetings in a busy day. I don't have to inhale some food before I rush into the lab. I don't have to sit down and eat dinner because it's dinner time on someone else's schedule. So it actually lockdown gave me time to eat better. And I'm going to try and keep those habits now that I'm out again.
It's a great idea. And just one other thing on how our society shapes the way that we think about food. For me, it was this just obsession with being skinny and not being strong. So when you just said earlier about you've been 150 kilos and 50 kilos, and at neither point of that spectrum were you ever healthy. The healthy part is the part that I think we miss the most in terms of a narrative that we often see in media. And I know everybody slates the sort of press and TV coverage here in Australia. It's the same in the UK, it's the same in the US. We are literally just plastered on the front pages of everything and on the top news stories about a woman losing weight really quickly after being pregnant, or a woman who's been on this new crazy ass diet that's helped her shed 15 kilos in 3 weeks or whatever. And it's just, when do we celebrate strong? When do we celebrate a woman who, like Serena Williams, coming back after having a really problematic pregnancy and then getting to the finals of various different tennis championships around the world and Grand Slams? And just why aren't we celebrating that?
It's even more than that though, isn't it? Because it's not just about celebrating strong and fit and healthy, because that's not everyone's goal, and that's not everyone's focus. Like, my body is amazing because it's where my brain lives, and it's the thing that gets me around and does all the things I want to do in a day. And it doesn't need to be the fastest or the shiniest or the thinnest or the strongest or anything to be a body that's celebrated. And I think we need to get to a point where all bodies are celebrated for being the amazing networks of connections and chemical reactions that they are. And the fact that we even exist from a biological perspective is bloody amazing. And let's just celebrate that rather than try and fix them all the time.
Round of applause. Nailed it.
And I think that is a really great place to draw this to a close. Thank you, Emma Beckett. It has been fascinating having a chat to you, and we're really grateful to you.
Thank you for listening to me rant.
Pleasure.